They called him Subject 317. Not a name. Not a rank. Just a number etched into a metal collar around his neck. For 3 straight years, the alien empire known as the Virex Dominion used him as a test creature. They injected his blood with burning chemicals, crushed his bones to study regeneration, drowned him in vacuum chambers just to measure how long a human could suffer before death. Every scream was recorded. Every heartbeat logged. They never asked where he came from. They only cared how much pain a human body could take before it stopped moving. What they never calculated was what happens to a human who survives all of it. The day the power grid flickered in the research wing, the guards laughed. The shields blinked for only half a second. That's all it took. Subject 317 felt the collar around his neck lose its energy field for the briefest moment. Muscle memory moved faster than fear. He slammed his head back into the steel restraints, breaking the weakened alloy with a sickening crack. Alarms erupted instantly, but by the time the first Virex guards rushed into the chamber, they were already too late. He moved like an animal that had forgotten what mercy was. The first guard raised a shock rifle. The human tore its arm clean off and used it to beat the second guard unconscious. Energy fire burned through his shoulder, but he didn't slow down. Pain didn't register the way it used to. He took the rifle, fired blindly down the corridor and ran. By the time emergency lockdown sealed the research station, 17 Virex soldiers were dead. The Dominion classified the escape as non-critical. That decision would end their empire. The human hitchhiked through space the only way a hunted creature could, by hiding inside supply ships, stealing oxygen tanks, clinging to the hollow shadows of cargo bays. He learned the Virex language by listening. He learned their navigation systems by watching. Within weeks, he understood something that made his hunger turn into strategy. The Virex Dominion wasn't just cruel. It was arrogant. They believed themselves untouchable. And arrogance always creates blind spots. He made his way from system to system, never staying long, sabotaging fuel depots, disabling communication relays, and turning slave colonies into powder kegs of rebellion. The aliens began whispering about a phantom. A ghost that left only destruction behind. Entire supply routes vanished overnight. Slave camps erupted into riots the moment his shadow touched their walls. They called him the Scarred One. The human never spoke his name. He didn't need it. The war didn't start with a fleet. It started with fear. The Virex High Council dismissed early reports. One escaped subject couldn't threaten a civilization that ruled 1,000 star systems. But then shipyards began to vanish. Energy cores detonated inside dreadnoughts. Stargates collapsed with entire armadas stranded on the wrong side of space. Every time they chased him, he vanished again. Until the day he didn't. The human let himself be captured on purpose. Dragged in chains before the High Council itself, his broken body barely standing, his eyes empty and cold. The chamber overflowed with towering Virex elites wrapped in golden armor and living plasma cloaks. The Supreme Chancellor leaned forward, studying him like a malformed insect. All this chaos, the Chancellor hissed, caused by one creature. The human smiled for the first time in 3 years. You broke the wrong one, he said. The council ordered his execution to be broadcast across the empire. They wanted to crush the myth. They wanted every slave species to see what happens when hope rises. The execution platform powered up. And that's when the signal triggered. Every energy core the human had secretly modified across the Dominion activated at once. Shipyards exploded first. Then fleets. Then power suns. Entire star systems folded into collapsing gravity storms as reactors tore themselves inside out. The High Council chamber shook violently as emergency lights failed one by one. The Chancellor screamed for shields. They didn't come up. The human's restraints fell dead as the power died. He stepped forward through fire and collapsing metal as the Empire began to burn itself alive. Guards rushed him in a panic, but fear makes hands slow and aim poor. He used their own weapons against them until only bodies remained between him and the throne. The Supreme Chancellor dragged itself backward in terror. We spared your species, it shrieked. We gave you purpose. You gave us chains, the human replied. His hand went around the alien's throat. Outside the capital world, the Dominion was dying. Slave species rose everywhere. Control worlds fell silent one after another. The armies meant to defend the Empire were being erased by their own infrastructure turning against them. The human didn't just start a war. He rewired the Empire into a weapon pointed at its own heart. When the capital world finally collapsed into its dying star, billions of Virex were erased in one blinding flare that pulsed through space like a warning. The Dominion was no more. The galaxy went quiet for a long time after that. Humanity did not conquer the stars. They didn't need to. Every civilization that had once laughed at Earth suddenly opened its borders. Treaties were signed in fear. The name of one tortured human traveled faster than any ship ever could. Children on distant worlds grew up warning each other that if they crossed humans, the ghost would come back. And on a silent blue planet on the edge of former Virex space, a scarred man stood on a cliff overlooking a calm ocean. No ships. No throne. No crown. Just freedom. For the first time since the experiments began, he was no longer running. The galaxy did not remember him as a king. It remembered him as something far more dangerous. The one human an empire should never have broken.